You have $340 in your checking account, not 34,000, not 34,000, just 340. And it's the 11th of the month and rent already left. You know, the number without opening the app, because you always know the number. That's what being broke actually is, not the absence of money. The constant low-grade awareness of exactly how little of it you have. You rent. You have always rented every first of the month. You wire $1,000-something to a man you have never met, and that money is gone. The way water is gone once it hits the drain. You are paying off a building you will never own for a landlord who once heard the thing nobody told you. So picture your life as a game. There's a counter in the corner of the screen, and it does not show your health or your score. It shows your net worth. Right now, it reads 0 below 0. Honestly, if you are fair about the student loans, the whole game is one long climb from that 0 up to a number that feels made up when you say it out loud. 500 million, $500 million in real estate held in your name. Here's the part nobody tells you. Almost no one clears level 1, not because they are stupid, because they believe the lie. And the lie is elegant. You need money to make money. You have heard it your whole life from people who never made any. It's the sentence that keeps the gate locked, and the gate stays locked because everyone standing in front of it agrees it should. The truth is smaller and stranger. You do not need money. You need one door, one single door with a lock you control, and a bank willing to bet on you, actually living behind it. That's the whole cheat code for level 1. And the fact that it sounds too simple is exactly why the line to use it is so short. So stop looking at the 340 like it's the problem. It's the coin you drop into the machine to start the game. By the end of this, you hold $500 million in real estate, and you will know floor by floor exactly what each level took from you to unlock the next. Level 1 is a locked gate. Let's pick it. The key is not cash, it's a loan. Almost nobody in your life has bothered to understand. It's called an FHA loan, and it exists because the government would rather you own than rent. Here's what it does. It lets you buy a home with 3.5% down instead of the 20% everyone assumes you need. On a $300,000 property, that's not $60,000, that's a little over $10,000. You need a credit score around 580 or better, which is not good credit. It's just not wrecked credit. And you have to actually live in the place for at least 12 months. That last part is not a technicality. It's the whole trick, because here's the move. Nobody at your job is making. The FHA loan works on 2 to 4 unit properties, a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex. You are allowed to buy a small apartment building, live in one unit, and rent out the others, and the bank treats it as your home because you are standing inside it. So you find it a tired brick triplex on a street your coworkers would call rough peeling trim, a water stain shaped like a country. Nobody's named 3 units, one of them empty and smelling of old cigarettes, 2 of them with tenants already paying rent. The day you get the keys, the list price is $310,000, and your hands are sweating on the pen. Now watch what the bank does, because this is the part that breaks the whole "you need money" lie in half. When they decide how big a loan you qualify for, they do not just look at your paycheck. They count roughly 75% of the rent those other units will bring in as your income. Not all of it, because they know things break, but most of it. Normally, selling a property with a large profit creates a significant capital gains tax bill. A 1031 exchange allows you to defer those taxes by reinvesting every dollar into another investment property. Instead of paying taxes today, your money continues working inside an even larger asset. One apartment complex becomes another. 200 units become 400, 400 become 800. Each exchange allows your equity to keep compounding without interruption. Many investors repeat this process for decades, keeping nearly all of their capital invested instead of losing a large percentage to taxes after every sale. The result is extraordinary long-term growth. By now, numbers no longer impress you. You no longer celebrate every extra $1 million. Instead, you think about responsibility. Thousands of people now live inside properties your company owns, families, children, teachers, nurses, retirees. Every apartment represents someone's home. Success stops feeling like a scoreboard. It starts feeling like stewardship, and that changes the way you build your business forever. Renovate apartments one by one, Improve landscaping, upgrade lighting, reduce unnecessary expenses, modernize amenities, increase occupancy, improve tenant satisfaction. As renovated units become available, you gradually raise rents to match the surrounding market. Nothing unreasonable, simply bringing the property to its true potential. Every renovated apartment increases rental income. Every increase in rental income raises net operating income. Every increase in net operating income raises the building's value. Now the improvements are measured in millions instead of thousands. The same strategy that worked on one small house now works across 200 apartments. Scale changes everything. After several years, the building is worth dramatically more than when you purchased it. Now you have two choices: sell the property or refinance and continue holding it. If you sell, there is one final strategy wealthy real estate investors use: the 1031 exchange. If the investment performs exceptionally well, perhaps profits eventually become 50-50. Notice what this system does. Your success depends completely on helping your investors succeed first. The better the property performs, the more everyone earns together. Your interests are perfectly aligned. That alignment creates trust. Trust attracts larger investors. Larger investors create larger opportunities. Soon, you stop looking for average apartment buildings. You begin searching for properties with hidden potential. A 200-unit apartment complex, old kitchens, outdated flooring, poor management, rents far below market value. The previous owner stopped improving the property years ago. Everyone else sees problems. You see opportunity. You purchase the building using investor capital and bank financing. Then, you apply every lesson learned over the past decade. Now you finally discover where the real money is made. Not through management fees, not through monthly cash flow, not even through appreciation. The biggest wealth comes from something called the waterfall structure. Imagine every dollar of profit flowing like water from the top of a mountain. Before anyone earns extraordinary returns, the first bucket must always be filled. That first bucket belongs to your investors. Remember the preferred return. If they were promised 8%, then they receive that first, every single time. Only after your investors have been paid does the remaining profit continue flowing downward. Now the next level begins. Perhaps profits are split 70% to investors and 30% to you. As returns improve, the split changes. 60% to investors, 40% to you. The first time you sit inside a title company conference room, everything feels different. The room smells like coffee paper and printer ink. A thick stack of legal documents sits in front of you. Somewhere inside those pages is a loan worth $12 million. Your name is attached to it. Not your investors, not your lawyer, not your accountant, yours. Even after years of buying properties, your hands still hesitate for a moment. The numbers feel enormous. The responsibility feels even bigger. Then you remember something. Every level of this journey felt impossible before you reached it. The first triplex once looked terrifying. The second property seemed risky. Hiring a property manager felt expensive. Raising money from investors felt impossible. Yet every challenge eventually became normal. So you sign the papers. That signature changes your life forever. Because successful investors are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make the decision. Level 4. Cleared. But you control the entire operation. That changes everything. You no longer think like an investor. You think like an entrepreneur. Instead of asking, how much money do I have? You ask, how much value can I create? That question separates ordinary investors from people who build lasting wealth. Because money follows value. Every successful project attracts larger investors. Every successful investor attracts better opportunities. Every successful opportunity creates even stronger relationships. Your reputation quietly becomes your greatest asset. People stop asking whether you can complete deals. They start asking when your next opportunity becomes available. The game has completely changed. You are no longer chasing wealth. Wealth begins chasing you. How they raise capital, how they solve unexpected problems, how they improve operations, how they communicate with investors. You are earning investment income while receiving an education no university could ever provide. Eventually, confidence replaces curiosity. You stop asking how successful sponsors operate because now you understand the process. That is when everything changes. You move from being a limited partner to becoming a general partner. Now, you are no longer investing into someone else's vision. You are creating your own. You find opportunities before anyone else. You negotiate purchase prices. You build relationships with banks. You organize legal structures. You raise money from investors. You coordinate renovation plans. You oversee property management companies. You become responsible for the entire project. Instead of writing one investment check, you are building businesses around every acquisition. The money also changes. Banks may finance 60 or 70% of the purchase price. Private investors provide the remaining equity. You personally invest only a small percentage yourself, not because they lack intelligence, because deals that size require something bigger than personal wealth. They require other people's money. The industry calls it syndication. The word sounds complicated. The idea is simple. Many investors combine their money to purchase one large property together. Instead of one person carrying the entire investment, everyone owns a piece. Inside every syndication, there are two very different roles: limited partners and general partners. Most successful investors begin as limited partners. An LP simply invests capital, maybe $100,000, maybe $200,000. They do not manage the property. They do not negotiate loans. They do not answer tenant calls. Their money works, while experienced operators handle everything else. In return, they receive something called a preferred return. Imagine an 8% preferred return. That word preferred matters because it means they get paid before anyone else, before the sponsor earns profit, before bonuses, before performance incentives. Investors receive their agreed return first. That structure creates trust. While you invest as an LP, something even more valuable happens. You begin learning. You watch experienced sponsors purchase buildings. You study how they negotiate financing. One ordinary Tuesday, you realize something feels different. You are sitting in a coffee shop. Maybe you are walking through a park. Maybe you are watching your child's soccer game. Your phone stays silent. No emergency maintenance calls. No tenants asking for repairs. No contractors missing appointments. Everything is still running. The rent arrived this morning, vacancies were filled, repairs were completed, leases were renewed. The property manager handled everything. The business kept producing income while you were completely absent. That is the first taste of real freedom, not the flashy kind people post online, the quiet kind. Nobody claps, nobody even notices. It's just another Tuesday. But your time finally belongs to you again. Level 3 cleared. Then another realization arrives. You have reached the limit of what your own money and personal credit can accomplish. You can keep buying smaller buildings, but eventually, every investor hits a ceiling. The next opportunity is different. A 100-unit apartment complex worth $12 million. No ordinary investor buys something like that alone, but the tax system still allows you to deduct depreciation from your rental income. That means you may collect positive cash flow while reporting very little taxable income. Then comes another refinance. The building increased in value because you improved its income. The bank recognizes that higher value. You refinance again, pull out new equity, receive fresh capital, and because borrowed money is not considered taxable income, you access that cash without triggering income tax. The machine grows stronger every year. Cash flow increases, equity increases, your available investment capital increases. Everything begins feeding everything else. One successful decision creates another, then another, then another. The flywheel finally starts spinning on its own. Raise rents by only $80 per apartment. Nothing dramatic, just small improvements. Across 20 apartments, those changes increase annual income significantly. Now something amazing happens. Because commercial real estate is valued using income, every additional dollar of annual profit increases the building's market value. If your market uses a 6% cap rate, then every extra dollar of annual income creates roughly $16 of additional property value. Increase annual profit by $20,000. The building may suddenly become worth more than $300,000 extra. You did not wait for appreciation. You forced appreciation. Investors call this forced equity. It is one of the most powerful concepts in real estate. Then you discover another advantage. Taxes governments allow rental property owners to claim depreciation. On paper, your building slowly loses value every year. In reality, many buildings become more valuable over time. A normal house is usually worth whatever similar houses nearby recently sold for. Emotion influences the price. Families imagine living there. They picture holidays, birthdays, and backyards. Apartment buildings work differently. They are valued almost entirely by numbers, specifically one number, net operating income, also called NOI. This is simply the money left after operating expenses are paid, but before mortgage payments. Then investors divide that income by something called the cap rate. That calculation determines the building's value, which means something incredible becomes possible. Instead of waiting for property prices to rise naturally, you can increase the value yourself. Imagine a 20-unit apartment building. You improve management, reduce unnecessary expenses, negotiate cheaper insurance, install separate water meters, lower maintenance costs. They charge around 8 to 10% of the monthly rent. Watching that money leave your account feels painful. But then something changes. The midnight phone calls stop. Late rent notices are handled by someone else. Maintenance requests no longer interrupt family dinners. Vacancies get filled without you spending weekends showing apartments. Lease agreements, inspections, repairs, and tenant communication all happen without your direct involvement. For the first time, your portfolio keeps working while you focus somewhere else. That is the day you stop being a landlord and start becoming an operator. Operators build systems. Systems build businesses. Businesses build wealth. Now that your time is no longer trapped inside daily management, you finally notice something much bigger. Single-family houses are not where massive fortunes are built. The real opportunity exists inside apartment buildings. 5-unit, 10-unit, 20 units, 50-unit. The rules completely change. 20 doors will test you before they reward you. The phone rings at 2 in the morning because the water heater failed in Unit 6. It rings again during dinner because another tenant says the air conditioner stopped working. Someone forgot to pay rent. Someone wants to renew their lease. Someone is moving out. Someone else wants to move in. Every problem lands on your phone. You started investing to buy freedom, but somehow built yourself another job with longer hours and even more responsibility. This is the point where most landlords stop growing. Not because they run out of money, because they run out of energy. They believe owning property means doing everything themselves. That belief quietly limits their future. So instead of buying more buildings, they spend their lives fixing toilets, answering phone calls, and collecting rent. You make a different decision. You fire yourself not from owning the buildings, from managing them. You hire a professional property management company. At first it hurts. Late nights become bookkeeping. The phone rings because a tenant locked themselves out. Another tenant reports a leaking pipe. Someone else cannot pay rent on time. The freedom you dreamed about slowly begins turning into another full-time job. Many investors stop here. They become exhausted. They own assets, but those assets own their schedule. They spend every day solving small problems instead of building something bigger. That is where level 2 truly begins. It is no longer about buying more property. It is about becoming someone capable of managing what you already own. Because building wealth is one skill, keeping it is another. And almost nobody talks about that difference. Money that keeps moving becomes far more powerful than money that stays still. Slowly, your thinking changes. You stop measuring success by the amount of cash in your bank account. Instead, you count doors, 5 doors, 8 doors, 11 doors. Every door represents another family paying rent, another mortgage shrinking every month, another asset increasing in value while you sleep. Eventually, you look around and realize you own 20 rental units. At that point, something important changes. This is no longer a hobby. It has become a real business, and businesses demand systems because success creates new problems. Your weekends disappear. Saturday mornings become repair visits. Sunday afternoons become meetings with contractors. Using a cash-out refinance, you pay off the original purchase loan, recover most or all of your renovation money, and still keep ownership of the property. The building continues generating rental income while much of your original cash returns to your pocket. Then comes the final step. Repeat, you take that same money and use it to buy another undervalued property. Then another and another. The exact same dollars travel from one property into the next. Instead of saving for years between investments, your capital never stops moving. That is the real secret. It is not about having millions. It is about increasing the speed at which your money works. Velocity beats size. Someone with $100,000 sitting in a savings account often builds wealth slower than someone recycling $30,000 through multiple profitable investments every year. That is exactly the property you want. You buy it below market value because almost nobody else wants it. That is the first step. Buy. Then comes rehab. This is not decorating walls or choosing fancy furniture. This is creating value where none existed before. You replace the roof, renovate the kitchen, install new flooring, repair plumbing, repaint every room, and fix every major problem. Imagine buying a property for $180,000. You invest $40,000 into renovations. A few months later, the property is appraised at $290,000. You did not wait for the market to increase its value. You created that value yourself. Next comes rent. Once the renovation is complete, you find reliable tenants. Now the property starts producing income every single month. Instead of costing you money, it begins paying you. Now comes the most powerful step: refinance. You return to the bank after the higher appraisal because the property is now worth much more. The bank is willing to lend against the new value. 12 months in something has permanently changed. And it is not the number in your account. It is that you now control an asset instead of just renting out your hours. A paycheck stops the day you do a building. Does not. Level 1 cleared the gates open and you already see the next one. Because the FHA rule cuts both ways. You only have to live there for 12 months. After that, you are free to leave. Keep the triplex rented and do the whole thing again. So you do month 13, you buy a second small building with another 3.5% down payment. You move into one unit, and the first triplex, now fully occupied, stops being your home and becomes purely an investment. You have cleared the gate twice with the same key, but there is a bigger loop hiding underneath this one. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Investors call it our buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. It is the engine that turns one down payment into an endless cycle of new opportunities. Here's how it works. You stop buying places that are simply old and start searching for properties. Everyone else ignores the house with broken windows, a collapsing porch, and years of neglect. The one buyers scroll past without even opening the listing. Suddenly, you, the person with $340 last month, qualify for a building because the building helps pay for itself. You move in, 2 tenants, send you rent on the first. That money that used to disappear down someone else's drain, now lands in your account and walks straight over to the mortgage. Do the math slowly because it's the best math you will ever do. Their 2 checks cover almost the entire payment. Your actual cost to live there drops to a couple $100s a month. Some months, once the empty unit fills, it drops to nothing. Some months, the building pays you to live in it. Your neighbors think you settled. Poor guy could not swing a real house, bought half a slum on the wrong side of the tracks. You let them think it because you are not looking at a starter home. You are looking at a machine that eats other people's rent and quietly pays down a loan with your name on it. Every month that loan gets smaller, while the building, most years, gets worth more. That gap between what you owe and what it is worth has a name equity, and it is yours, growing in the dark while you sleep, funded by tenants who think they are just paying rent.